Hello, and welcome once again to my notes on House of Leaves. A few disclaimers, as always. I hate editing, so what you're getting is what you're getting. As Bob Ross and Mark C. Danilowski both agree, there are no accidents or mistakes, only happy little trees. Or maybe not so happy trees in the case of House of Leaves. And spoilers. I talk about everything that happens in the book, and things that don't happen in the book as well. So if you haven't read the whole book, or if you don't mind spoilers, there's your warning. So we're going to start, as always, with the epigraph. This one's from Albert Einstein. And you can see from this page that we are in for an interesting journey. So this is from Einstein's Geometry and Experience. And basically, the basic idea is that math can't describe reality because numbers can't adequately describe, mimic, or interpret perception. So, math isn't real. Don't worry about 2 + 2 = 4. It could equal 5 if you want. Yeah, we're more worried about words here. Okay, page 371. Odd reference, if or not. We've been sticking to a lot of references to like very like academic type stuff, but here we have a reference to Homer Simpson and his brother Herbert. So Herbert is Homer's long lost half brother, and Homer destroys Herbert's business, causing them to split. And then in another episode, Herbert comes back to Homer asking for help and ends up forgiving him. So again, this relationship between brothers, we see that a lot between Tom and Will. And we have a reference to Mel O'Geary, and that could possibly be a reference to page 179 here, where we get a reference to Dr. Ogelmeyer, because Mel O'Geary and Ogelmeyer are anagrams of each other. And they're both not real people. Sometimes real people are referenced in here. So this was just a thought that I had, that all these X's that we get throughout here was maybe just, I tried to count them, I gave up, Mark C. Danilowski's way of covering up the fact that he actually doesn't know a lot about geology. So it's just like, something spilled on the page, and this is what we got. Could be real. Who knows? On page 373, we get this word, cleosynthesis, which is probably nucleosynthesis, which means which is reference to the creation of new atomic material, such as the Big Bang, referenced down here. The Big Bang was a nucleosynthesis. I think in total there's 1,161 X's on this page, but then there are all these, and I decided to stop counting. There's might be some significance there, but I didn't feel like doing that. I had enough on my plate in regards to all these other references and stuff. So page 342 here, Tera, Tera, congruency of blah blah blah. This is a real article, so let's open it. Let me close all these previous ones. Sorry, from the previous chapter. So yeah, this is the article. You can read it. I don't understand, because I'm not a scientist. I'm not a geologist, but it's there if you want to read it. And then mineralogy of chronditic interplanetary dust particles is also a real article, and you can read it here, or you can read the abstract if you have the access to reading papers. You can read it here. Yeah. And Bebbelstein and Polinger are not real, but the journal that they wrote in is real. They found a copy of it here, so this Bebbelstein and Polinger, Physics Today. This is all the articles that are in it. They have page numbers here. Volume 48, page 24 to 30. I don't know if there's page numbers. No, they're not. But yeah, there's a glass of wine. Life in the Fallowed Halls of Academia. Physics of Basketball. Or baseball. Baseball. So yeah, there's that. The article on the page that is referenced there. Okay, so I did find the page number. Sorry. The article on that page is about proton spin crisis. Just that quarks don't affect spin at the CERN super collider. I did find a guy named Klaus Bebbelstein. So not Bebbelstein, but Bebbelstein. He actually wrote books on architecture and of ancient Jerusalem, and we know that there's a lot of influence in House of Leafs from architecture and Judaism. So I thought that was interesting that maybe this could be a reference to him. So he wrote books such as The Architecture of the Holy, Solomon's Temple and the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, Building with Meaning, Steps Towards a Philosophy of Architecture. Yeah, so there's the references to those books if you're interested in finding them. I always include a link to my notes in these videos. Okay, then we have down here Desi, pronounced, or Desi, see that's how I pronounce it, but it's pronounced Daisy. Could that be a reference to Daisy Navidson? Who knows? Hermes, he's referenced throughout House of Leaves. I haven't yet talked about bald gnome error, but Hermes is involved in that idea, so the fact that there's another reference to him here is interesting. And we have Hermes is the god of messengers. He's the messenger god, and Johnny's font is courier font. So we see this idea of Johnny as a messenger, as Hermes. Another Greek god, Hera, the mother of gods. So could this be Polyphena, or is Polyphena Eve, the mother of mankind? We do get a reference to Johnny with the IE, the female Johnny, as Lilith, the mother of strays or monsters. So yeah. And then we have here Wave Origin Reflection Data Series, which could be, if you take the first letter, it spells out words. Yeah. Footnote 343, we get this reference to Paul Wren, who's actually a real person. He's the head of department at BGC, which is this Berkeley Geochronology Center. And this article, Science, August 12th, 1994, is a real magazine, but there's no article by Paul Wren. But page 864, the page referenced, has an article called Lab Custody Fight and Institute Divorce. And there's actually a picture of Paul Wren on that article. Right here. Paul Wren, standing third from right. So this right there. So the guy he referenced is actually pictured in that article. I thought that was interesting. How deep does it go? I found myself asking. Footnote 344. We get this reference to Canyon Diablo. So this idea of the devil. On page 334, we get a reference to 334. We get a reference to Menominee, Wisconsin, and this place there called the Devil's Punch Bowl. So kind of a similar idea of this hole that has to do with the devil. Like the house, maybe. 345, we get D.W. Sears. And this is real as well, so I'll open the link there. The Nature and Origin of Meteorites by Derek W.G. Sears. And this archive, Internet Archive, is pretty cool. You can look through books and stuff, and look at the contents and everything. Oh, you have to actually borrow the book, but you don't have to pay to borrow it or anything to actually read through it. Okay, now on to page 375. We get this ABECED, so ABCD alphabet. Could possibly be a reference to an abecedarium, which is a list of the letters of the alphabet in order, because we didn't always have the alphabet in alphabetical order. Work that out on your own time. 346. Robert T. Dodd, Another Real Person, Another Real Book on Meteorites. A petrologic chemical synthesis. And you can find it on Google Books here. There's the contents there. On page 161, we don't have access to it, but it's Formation and Metaformic Ages. Okay. Footnote 347 is again a real book, real article. So again, here from Harvard University. Get this. Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. This is actually interesting. This letter from Derek Sears. Talk about it here. It's a letter to the editor regarding a change in the name of a journal where this article is printed. He says, the name of a journal, like all institutions, is at the same time both trivial and highly important. Trivial. I should say trivial, not trivial. Trivial. And highly important. It's trivial because it is arbitrary. Once a journal acquires a certain reputation, its reputation outspeaks its name. It's highly important for several reasons. In the current instance, there is the unfortunate fact that the present name is a marketing disaster. The name, which does not appear in the dictionary, can easily be mistaken for a quite different product, and the mistaken identity stories are legion. Meteorology, while a fine science, is not ours. So I thought that was an interesting idea, that the kind of paradox of a name. So for example, like House of Leaves, it holds a lot of meaning, but it's also kind of trivial at the same time, because what matters more is what's inside, right? Page 376. I happened to bump one with my foot. Eventually, I had numerous piles spread out across my room. I usually placed a book or some heavy object on it to keep the isolated mounds from flying apart if there was a draft, or I happened to bump one with my foot. We know that feet are significant in House of Leaves, because Nabby has problems with his feet. Johnny stubs his toe, and then we are told that love lives in the big toe by Pelafina. And if you think that House of Leaves is a love story, then you'll know that feet are very significant in regards to love. So Johnny keeps bumping into the piles of paper containing the House of Leaves stories with his feet. And then we get this reference to a German ink 4001 Brilliant Schwarz, which is an ink from the Pelican brand, and this means brilliant black. We could argue that it's in reference to the house being, the hallway being black, but we also know that Pelican could reference to the Pelican poems, which were written with a Pelican pen. Yeah, so did Johnny write the Pelican poems, or who did? Anyways, 378, here we get a reference to Niflheim, which if you've at least seen like the Thor movies, that should sound familiar to you. It is the home of mist in Norse mythology. It was actually the first world to be created after Muspelheim. It's the home to Hel, and the afterlife for those who did not die a heroic death. and it is the third root of Yggdrasil, which is what we get in the back of House of Leaves, Yggdrasil. Significance of the tree and the Norse mythology in that. And then we get lots of references to the Hollow Earth movement in this chapter as well. So there's this idea that the Earth is hollow and that you can go and explore it. So, for example, Edgar Allan Poe, we have the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym. He ends up in this Hollow Earth civilization, discovers a labyrinth there as well. And it's often the community, the society that is in the Hollow Earth is utopian in nature or seemingly utopian in nature, which is kind of like the opposite of the Hollow Earth that is discovered under Navi's house. You could argue that it is, in fact, very dystopian. Another interesting word, ratioinations. The process of exact thinking and reasoning. It is then used by Johnny on page 380, ratioination. And then again in the Pelican poems on page 577. Over. Of course I didn't. Oh, right here. Ratioinations. I'm trying to keep these things highlighted to find them easier, but there we go. Okay, so I just like picking up on these weird words that are used by different people throughout the text. We have a reference to John Cleves Sims. He was a Hollow Earth writer. Some claimed he was the real author of Simsonia, Voyage of Discovery, which was actually attributed to Captain Adam Seaborn, so we have that question of authorship there. Other researchers argue that he wasn't the author. Some people says there was. Who knows? Some think it was written as a satire of Sims's ideas of the Hollow Earth, and they believe the author may actually have been Nathaniel Ames. So it's interesting that we have this question of authorship there, right? And then we have Raymond Bernard, who went by a variety of names. He was born Walter Isidore Scheigmeister. He also went by Robert Raymond and Uriel Adriana, and he was a eugenicist as well. So, yeah, that's interesting. And then we have Norma Cox. Oh, this was a real person. And I found this book, and there's a warning. She is very pro-Nazi. A lot of eugenicist Nazi ideas are also linked with, like, Hollow Earth. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why, but this is her her work on this. I didn't read it because it is a lot of nonsense, but if you want to go through it, I skimmed it, I'll say. But it is very all over the place. Yeah. I don't know how he would have come across this, because it was like a pamphlet that was printed and like self-published. But who knows? Okay. Page 379 over here. I grew up on certain words I've never mentioned to Lude or anyone for that matter. Words orbiting around my mother, mainly. And so that I thought was significant in regards to this link between the strange words used by Pelafina, Johnny, and Zampano. And here's one of those words. Verberation. Which is the obsessive repetition of words, phrases, especially as a symptom of mental illness. Pelafina's odd words and phrases keep popping up throughout the rest of the text, or even just, alluded to it sometimes. Okay, so we got some names here. Kurt Schneider, or Gabriel Langfield. These are all pioneers in the study of schizophrenia. It's interesting that Langfield also wrote a book about Quisling, who is mentioned multiple times. On page 577, we get references to Quisling there. I'll talk about Quisling when we get to him, but it's just an interesting connection. And on page 633, we have Pelafina talking about Quisling as well. So, yeah. So, Kurt Schneider, he was a German psychiatrist. He worked on... Wow, that is totally not spelled anywhere near the right word. He worked on diagnosis and understanding of schizophrenia and personality disorders. Gabriel Langfield was a Norwegian psychiatrist. He also concentrated on schizophrenia. As I said before, he wrote a book about Quisling. Criteria of St. Louis, Feiner criteria developed at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, set out the criteria for the diagnosis of schizophrenia. Taylor and Abrams created more criteria for diagnosing schizophrenia. And then we have the research diagnostic criteria, which is another collection of influential psychiatric diagnostic criteria. Talk about verberation. There. Lots of repetitive words there. Okay. Page 380, we get a reference to a stainless steel Taurus, 605.357. It's a gun. It's also interesting that it also came in a blued steel. I don't know why he didn't get the blued steel. We know blue is a significant color in House of Leaves. He got the stainless steel. It's a gun, by the way. I should mention that. In the context of the story, it makes sense that it is a gun. Weatherby 300 Magnum is also another gun. It's actually used for big game hunting. So, what is he gonna hunt? What are you hunting there, Johnny? Okay, page 381, Noda Venard. Noda, this is not a real person, but Noda is Hebrew for to know. So Noda says the key to the sequence exists in the margin. So, in her notes, the key is significant. So, I'll come back to that. There's lots of references to keys. Matthew Coolidge, all the way down here. He is a real person, and this is a real article. I'll open it here. The Nevada Test Site, A Guide to America's Nuclear Proving Ground. You can buy the book here. But yeah. So that is a real book. Okay. Page 383. So this is a glossary containing definitions for things about languages and rocks. So what the house is made of. The house is made out of words, glossary, and rocks, which are the words in the book. Yeah. So we have this D structure, which is the tree providing a place for the words. You could argue that that is Yggdrasil, the tree. So D structure means deep structure. It's a reference to concepts, thoughts, ideas, feelings, what you wish to express. And then we have S structure, which is surface structure, which are the words and languages we use to interpret or represent the deep structure. So it's how you express what you wish to express. And that's it for chapter 16 of House of Leaves. Thank you so much for sticking with me through the nonsense. I don't know if it all makes sense. I'm not trying to make sense in these videos. I'm just trying to provide my own notes. And I'm developing theories through these references and notes. So this is like the research that leads to theories and ideas and other things. And I'm just providing my references so you can come up with your own theories and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you. Let me know your own thoughts on this chapter, and thank you for watching.